Ukraine, it is said, will join the EU by 2029, and Hungary's veto vote won't matter, says European Union's Enlargement Commissioner. Is that her or is that him? Because he's already enlarged. Brussels, it seems, will bend and break its own rules to ensure that Ukraine joins the EU as a way to say F you to Russia. I added that last part. The EU wants Ukraine in the European Union, and they're willing to use underhanded methods in violation of the founding treaty, including cutting Hungary out of the process and ignoring the country's veto. Marta, the European Commission's Commissioner for Enlargement, spoke to the European Parliament's Foreign Affairs Committee on Tuesday, where she made it clear that they want to complete the enlargement process for Ukraine by the end of the next EU term, which is 2029. We must and will succeed in the next phase of European unification. We have a realistic chance of bringing one or more candidate countries to the finish line in this cycle. You know, what I find ironic is when you're looking at the massive immigration problem they have in Europe, bringing in Islamic people from all over the world in numbers that are crazy, millions and millions, and they're balkanizing. And so you're seeing lots of violence in the UK, in Germany, in France, etc. And it's causing the rise of, for example, in Germany, there's a party called the AfD, with the Alternative für Deutschland, or Alternative for Germany. This is what is being labeled as a far-right party, whose two primary parts to their platform is anti-immigration. They want the Islamic people out of the country, and they want to get out of the climate deals that the European Union is doing because they say it is squeezing their economy. For example, all of their nuclear power plants have been shut down, and now they're having to buy oil or gas from Russia to heat their homes, which is problematic. And so there's a lot of growing anger in Germany, which is echoed here in the U.S., or rather, their anger is echoing what's happening here. And it's pretty wild to watch. The AfD is now the number 2 party in the country, and their power is rising. The government of Germany is trying to ban the party. So to save democracy, they want to ban democracy. And this is happening all over the place. So the EU, while they're out there trying to enlarge their bloc, the reality is they might well be looking at a situation where they could fracture and break apart. Now, I think that's a long shot, but Poland, they're trying to force Poland to take hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of Islamic people, and they don't want it. They're telling countries like Germany that they can't deport en masse their immigrants that are causing problems. They have to do case by case, which of course is impossible. And so there's a lot of unhappy countries within the EU. So it's not looking good over there. And them doing this, I mean, good for the Ukraine, I guess. But it's probably going to cause more problems than it's going to solve, I think. And the EU needs to be careful because they need to be allied together. Because if we've been providing their protection since World War II, thanks to the Cold War, because as soon as the Nazis were gone, then you had the communists, the socialists come in there and try to take over the world. So you had Russia, the USSR. And so we had no choice but to stay there and put military bases all over Europe, which we still have most of them there today. And the EU is supposed to provide defense, and we were, to aid us, but they haven't been doing that for decades now. And they've been using the excess money to fund their social programs. We've been basically their piggy bank. Now that you got somebody like Donald Trump coming in who wants to end that, this is a problem. So Europe needs to do something about their defense, because you've got China, you've got Russia, who are not their friends. And if we withdraw, Europe is weak, the weakest probably they've ever been since the end of World War II. So not looking good. Let's see. Anyway, Kos also specifically addressed the accession process of Ukraine and Moldova, stating, now we absolutely have to take the next step with Ukraine and Moldova. Both countries have done their homework. She also emphasized that all preparations have been made, so it is now up to the Council of Member States to open the first negotiation cluster. According to the commissioner, enlargement is not only an economic opportunity, but also a key security guarantee for the European Union. To this end, the EU Commission is already starting to open up the internal markets to the countries concerned, in particular in the areas of defense and security, energy, and connectivity. To complete the accession negotiations, the Commission is stepping up its efforts to accelerate the integration of the internal market, now in the areas of defense and security, and then in connectivity, energy, and other areas, together with the EU member states, she added. Koss said Ukraine's access to the EU is a key for their security guarantee. We must make it happen. We must move forward to maintain the momentum of reforms in Ukraine to help our member states address their concerns and ultimately to respond to the greatest security challenges since the Second World War. It is worth remembering, by the way, that it was Marta Koss who recently admitted that accession negotiations with Ukraine would begin in June and also spoke of doing everything she could to accelerate their accession. She even said that 1,000 people are already working in the Brussels institutions to accelerate the blah, 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 blah. This is interesting because it was EU Commissioner Marta Koss who showed Alex Soros that Ukraine could not meet a single EU accession condition. So basically, they're just going to say, F the rules. We want Ukraine in there because we want access to their materials, their wealth, and God knows what else. So good luck in the EU. We'll have to just see what happens there. But I wonder if in the next 10 to 15 years, you're going to see the EU fall apart. Not predicting it, but I would not be surprised if it did.